welcome. You're listening to the Louie Minor Show. I'm your host, Commissioner Louie Minor. Today is April 1st, 2023. Happy April Fool's Day. We have a lot to talk about this week, including our guest, Miss Julie Oliver. So let's get started. Let's begin with going over the agenda for April 3rd, 2023. The first thing for the regular agenda that we have is the invocation, Pledge of Allegiance, then the consent agenda. Consider the approval of the minutes of March 27th, 2023. Budget personnel amendments, claims, accounts payable, payroll, restitution, jury pay. And then D, consider authorizing the disposal of county property as either salvage or surplus property as defined by the Texas Local Government Code, Subchapter D, disposition of salvage or surplus property, Section 263.151 and 263.152. County property will be sold by Bill Hall Auctioneers, Inc. at 10 a.m. on Saturday, April 22nd, 2023, at the Wildfire Arena Complex, I-35 South and FM 2268, exit 283, Salado, Texas. Then we have County Judge and Commissioner announcements. That is everything for the agenda. Just consent agenda items. Then we have for our workshop, immediately following that, we have staff offices and department reports, capital improvement project updates. We have the jail expansion updates, Salado Annex and Museum Archives Building, Clean Annex, District Court Facilities, and then FY23 CIP plan. Then also receive an update from IT and the auditor on the RFP for the hotel occupancy tax software. Then, let's see, we have discuss the appointment of the nominating committee for the Bell County Museum Board of Trustees. Receive a briefing from the Texas Veterans Land Board relating to State Veterans Cemetery in Killeen, Texas. And discuss the Cora Anderson building and the proposed short-term use of the building. And that is it. So what I want to talk about real quick is just an update of, news, local, state, and federal, national news. I guess the biggest thing that we have going on right now is that former President Donald Trump was indicted on Thursday. The documents have not been unsealed, but it's being widely reported that he will probably have to turn himself in on Tuesday, and they will unseal the documents. 30 plus charges for various business related matters, all stemming from hush payments that the former president made before getting elected as president. And from my understanding, there's a statute of limitation because obviously they couldn't charge him while he was in office. So I think that's kind of why there's some pressure on the DA there in New York to hurry up and put these charges on him. And just it's interesting that Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, went to prison, pleaded guilty for all the same stuff that the former president is about to get charged with. So I want to say it's probably a pretty serious crime. Well, imminent that he'll be convicted. They've already convicted one person of it, and I don't see how President Trump can uh, disassociate from that if his attorney was at his direction. But here locally at the state level, state legislature, there's been a lot of activity, a lot of hearings for various things: school, education savings plan, property taxes, LGBT transgender bills. Just a lot of things going on at the Capitol. Next week, I believe it's the Texas Association of Counties, counties at the Capitol, and I plan on being there. That'll be on Tuesday to support local control, and there's a list of things that are affecting counties that state legislatures do. They call them unfunded mandates, and you'll hear that term a lot in the county, where the state passes something, legislates something, but doesn't attach any funding mechanism to it. So the counties, to pay for that, to comply with the law, has to pay it through property taxes increase. That's the only way that the county makes money. That is the only way the county makes money, is through property taxes. So if we have a mandate from the state and it's not funded, we have to increase the taxes to fund it. So those are things that we're trying to stop. That we, if the Texas Association of Counties, they have a legislative arm, and they identify things that will affect counties specifically for unfunded mandates, and then they go out and try to oppose those bills and get the county commissioners to support that as well, and reaching out to their local legislators to oppose that. Well, the first thing that I want to talk about, at least for bringing everyone up to speed of what happened last week at last week's Commissioners Court meeting, the start of the meeting, I objected. I did a point of order to the start of the meeting, because according to the Open Meetings Act, you're required to do a minimum of a 72-hour notice posting to the public that we're going to be meeting, a government body is meeting. So you have to post it to a bulletin board for the public, and then you have to concurrently post it online. Vice versa. It can happen one way or the other, but depending on the county, the size of the county. But for Bell County, you have to post it both ways concurrently. And that didn't happen. Routinely, we get an email from the county judge's office of the agenda that's going to be going out. And when that agenda comes out is on Friday, when they email it to all elected officials. We did not receive that email until 9:44, 44 minutes after it should have been posted online, to comply with the Open Meetings Act, to comply with the 72 hours. And that didn't happen. Now, it was posted physically at 8:24, but it was not concurrently posted online. So for that fact, I objected to the meeting that we needed to wait until, I guess it was agreed upon around 9:50 to start to comply with the Open Meetings Act. And everyone disagreed. The judge, he had a reading on the Open Meetings Act. The county attorney agreed with him, and so did the county clerk. But all of them disregarded in their reasoning. They didn't see the 72-hour online concurrent requirement that the Open Meetings Act clearly states. So I guess when they were skimming over the Open Meetings Act on that day, they didn't read that part, but it is in there. I did ask the Texas Association of Counties for, I guess, their input on it. And they said there is a concurrent requirement, but it doesn't define concurrent. I don't think we need to define concurrent. We know what concurrent means. Yeah, I get that lawyer talk that it doesn't define what concurrent means, but we know what concurrent means, and that didn't happen. Concurrent is not 44 or 50 minutes later. That is not concurrent. So, anyways, out of an abundance of caution, the judge ruled. The commissioners agreed to wait till 9:50 to start the meeting. So we started the meeting. After that, and we had routine things on it. I spoke about what was on the agenda, but the two things that were on the agenda that I had put on: the consideration of the demolition of the Confederate statue. I've had continued to put that on since I've been elected, because the court was not taking action. Now, probably a month ago, they took an action to table it for 2 years, and I did not think that was legal for them to do that, and that infringed on my right as a county commissioner to put any item on the agenda that I want. So this was the first time that I got a second on my motion to consider the demolition of the Confederate statue. Commissioner Woodson seconded the motion for me to demolish it, but then he changed and wanted to amend that motion to keep the statue there and to not demolish it. And that's what he wanted to do. He wants to keep the statue there, the Confederate statue there. And obviously he got a second from the other commissioners. And we had some, I think 3 people get up there and discuss 2 for, 1 against, and the motion passed. The court, the Commissioner's Court of Bell County, voted to keep the Confederate statue. There was no end date on it, in perpetuity on the courthouse grounds. So, hey, if you want to be handcuffed to the Confederacy, that's your decision. But it's that's something that I wouldn't do, and that's yeah. So To me, now the Commissioner's Court, they took appropriate action on the Confederate statue, and we're going to have to vote them out. It's that plain and simple. If we want that Confederate statue demolished, because now there's no middle ground. There's no middle ground. There's no moving it to a respectable place in my eyes. They drew a line in the sand, and the only place that statue can go now is the Temple landfill. So once we have enough votes on the Commissioner's Court to do that, that's what's going to happen. Mark my words. There's no moving it to a place that's appropriate. The only appropriate place is the Temple landfill. So the next item that was on the agenda was to receive an update from the Bell County attorney on the lawsuit against the city of Killeen. Now, the reason why I put that on the agenda was because last week, after our meeting, after our workshop, the county judge asked the county attorney for an update. And the county attorney gave his update. Now, one of the commissioners had left. There was 3 of us there, including the county judge, which constitutes a quorum. And I believe that violated the Open Meetings Act. And I mentioned that in open meeting, that the reason why I put this on the agenda was because I believe that the public needs to know that I believe that we violated the Open Meetings Act. I did say we. I didn't say they. I said we. And the public needs to be aware of what was talked about in regards to the lawsuit with the city of Killeen. And the county attorney, I guess, was trying to be funny, trying to tell a joke, and said he's going to get his hair cut on Wednesday or Thursday. And everyone kind of just didn't understand what he was talking about. And he goes, oh, well, I got to get ready for the cameras. So Thursday, Friday came and went. I haven't seen the county attorney since then, so I'm assuming he did not get a haircut because no lawsuit was filed. And I'm seeing one thing that bothers me is schedules and timelines that are set by someone else. If I tell you I'm going to do something and give you a date that I'm going to do it, and then it doesn't get done, that really, really irritates me. It would be different if I give you a date like, hey, I need this done by Monday, and you don't finish it till Tuesday or Wednesday. That's different because I don't know your schedule. I don't know, how much time it's going to take to do something. I'm just letting you know I need it done by a certain date. When you, the individual, the county attorney, tells the commissioner's court you're going to do something by a date, I think you have a good knowledge of your timelines. You have a good knowledge of where everything stands, what you need prepared to file that lawsuit against the city of Killeen. But no, we didn't see it. So who knows when it's going to be filed? Will it be next week? I don't know. It just seems like the county attorney has a problem staying on a schedule and providing deliverables to the people. That's what I see. Then in the workshop, the afternoon workshop, we had talked about something. In the workshop, we talked about something that I believe I will save for next week's episode. Uh, yeah, let me save that because that is going to be a little bit longer discussion than what we have time for. I want to respect your time, and so let's get to our interview. Okay, well, I want to get to our guest now. I'd like to introduce Miss Julie Oliver of Ground Game Texas. She is a co-founder. According to her bio, or according to her bio, Julie Oliver, the executive director, is a healthcare finance expert who ran two aspirational 100% PAC-free campaigns for the U.S. House of Representatives, Texas 25th Congressional District. In addition to her role as executive director of Ground Game, Julie serves her community by volunteering weekly at a local food bank and on a volunteer board position for DIV Inc., and has 2 decades of healthcare finance and tax law experience. She received an undergrad in accounting from UT Arlington and a law degree from UT School of Law. Lives in Austin with her husband, Matt, 5 cats, a dog, and their kids. So welcome, Julie, to the show.
Thank you, Louie. It's so nice to be here. I have one correction. We are down to 4 cats. My cat of 15 and a half years recently passed away. And so we're 4 cats now. Well, it feels so empty. It really does. Weird.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry for your loss. Also, there's some more adjectives, a description, at least here in the Bell County area. You're commonly referred to as the outside agitator, the liberal progressive Democrat from Austin, meddling in our business. So just so the listeners know that as well of you. But welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
I remember when you ran for the 25th, and I remember you coming into Bell County, but I don't think we spoke much, or you only had those 3 precincts in Killeen, and
that's right.
I knew of you. I listened to you speak a couple of times. I was always a fan and an admirer, but definitely since we started working together on the decriminalization, I'm probably one of your biggest fans here in Bell County, and I really, really enjoy working with you. Everything that you have done for this community, and your passion to serve, it's definitely inspirational. So I do want to let you know that.
Oh, Louie, thank you. What a kind introduction. And I hope you know that I'm probably your biggest fan here in Travis County, where I live. But grateful that, I'm really grateful you wanted to serve your community. I think you're truly the embodiment of what a representative should be. And I think it's incredible that you listen to the concerns of your community and then you go advocate for them. It's exactly the way it should work. It shouldn't be just a handful of people who have a backdoor to an elected official. They slide them some money and then they get their will done. Damn the voters and ignore them. That's the way so often it works, but that's not you. And I'm so grateful that that's not the way you view your role as a servant of the community.
Well, there's something that I always, people, they'll call us progressive Democrats. They'll call us liberal Democrats or just Democrats. I consider myself a progressive, and I think there are distinctions between all of those. I think you identify yourself as a progressive Democrat, if I'm not speaking out of place.
Correct.
But like for me, it's actually getting things done,
Right,
and moving and pushing the uh, what the voters want. Uh, uh,
right.
that
Making progress. So weird, huh?
it is,
Novel.
and and I'll probably speak about this. We'll probably well, we can talk about it now. But since I got elected, and dealing with the commissioner's court, the makeup, it's I'm the only Democrat in the room where these decisions are being made, and I don't know what the political makeup of the staff is, but I think that they're conditioned by the commissioner's court. This court has been Republican for decades. So I think just the staff is conditioned that way, to think that way. So even whenever I start pushing ideas towards staff, I get a little pushback from them. I don't think they do it intentionally, but I think it's just they're conditioned to think the opposite.
Well, change for humans is hard sometimes, right?
Mm.
Um, we most of us try to avoid change, but where there are areas of and opportunities for growth, you have to have change. And growth doesn't happen when things are the same, and progress can't be made when things stay the same. But for so many people, it's just kind of instinctive, right, to avoid change, or to at least at first be very scared of change. I think we saw that perhaps even in Killeen, and we did the marijuana decrim initiative. And when Police Chief Kimball was asked about this, how are the police officers? And he goes, well, at first it was going to be change and it was going to be hard, and, but we've implemented this and it actually has allowed us to work smarter. Change happened. The end of the world didn't happen.
No.
Um, and progress was made. And yeah, I think, it's kind of human nature to be afraid of fear of the unknown. We are all guilty of it for sure.
Well, kind of explain to the listeners what Ground Game Texas is. The local narrative here is that you're just an outside Austin liberal group, forcing the Austin will on us, conservative people over here in Bell County, and throughout the state. So, just kind of tell us what Ground Game, I guess, how y'all got started, and
Yeah.
then we kind of go into when you came to Killeen.
I'd be happy to. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to. Our we certainly aren't forcing people to vote, but we really are trying to figure out ways that you can affect immediate progressive change and get people excited about an issue, so much so that they actually turn out to vote. But it's born out of, two congressional campaigns for me, two congressional campaigns for my co-founder, Mike Siegel. And, coming out of those races, Texas isn't heading in the right direction. And in fact, it's like we're on, remember old VCRs, and you could keep something playing, but you could hit the reverse button, so everything happened in reverse.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I feel like that's what we're doing right now. We've got the reverse button on and we're going backwards, and it's not good. And, as I'll even tell you why I ran for Congress. I ran for Congress because I have a son who has a lot of healthcare issues. He's had cardiac issues since he was 5. He's had an compromised immune system, and immune deficiency since he was a freshman in high school. That nearly took us a year to figure out what was wrong with him. He just kept getting sick over and over and over, and they'd be lasting. Something that might take you and me out for maybe a couple days, 3 days, would take him out for months.
Oh, wow.
And so when Congress was debating repealing, and they did on the House side, they repealed the Affordable Care Act in 2017. It was the summer of 2017. It went over to the Senate side, and everybody probably remembers John McCain famously giving the thumbs down signal.
Yes.
He saved the Affordable Care Act. And I want to remind folks, the Affordable Care Act is what allows, if you're lucky enough to have insurance, it's what allows parents to keep their kids on insurance until they turn 26. Before that, kids got kicked off when they were 18 or had finished high school.
And they can't deny you if you have pre-existing conditions.
They knew if you had pre-existing conditions, they could kick you off. They could put you on what they call a high-risk pool. For women who owned their own businesses, I talked to women who had to pay into high-risk pools because they were of childbearing age, even though they weren't married and they had no plans to make families. They were considered a high risk at getting pregnant, and their insurance, Affordable Care Act, their insurance was $3,000 every month.
Wow.
To own your own business and have insurance for yourself. $3,000 a month. The Affordable Care Act did away with that, and they pool. Not everybody's pooled together, but it has kind of eliminated those high risk pools that they used to try to, if you had any pre-existing condition, that they would shove you over into. And so we were worried about that for our kiddo. And I ran for Congress. I had 15 years at the time of healthcare finance experience. I know how we finance healthcare in America intimately. I know it like the back of my hand, and it's worst in Texas. And I'll just for a quick second give you a quick Cliff Notes version. We pay for healthcare for the largest uninsured population that this country has. Texas has the largest uninsured population. And we pay for them because when uninsured folks don't have insurance and they can't pay to see a doctor, they end up in our emergency rooms. Every emergency room that takes a federal payment like Medicare or Medicaid has to see anybody who comes through their doors. It's called EMTALA. Anyways, if you're uninsured, you go to the emergency room when you get sick, or if you're really, cardiac arrest, or if you have diabetes, you name it. We pay for that in Texas through our property taxes because it is a requirement. It's in state law that every county provide indigent care.
Mm-hmm.
So it is part of your county taxes. And you probably know this as you start getting familiar with the budget. Y'all have line items for indigent health care in your budget. We pay for, if you actually have insurance, your premiums are covering a significant portion of the folks who go into hospitals who are uninsured. Because I know from the hospital side, when we would negotiate with insurance companies, we would try to get the most we could extract from the insurance companies to cover those the cost of the care that wasn't paid for.
Right.
And then insurance companies obviously push that on to employers and employees. So it's like a double whammy. And I will say third, because we did not expand Medicaid and we are foregoing, I think it's $10 billion every year of Medicaid fund. We, through our federal income taxes, are subsidizing the states like Kentucky and Oklahoma and Missouri that did expand Medicaid. So our federal income tax dollars are going to other states.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick, is specifically on that, because we had something that came up in the commissioner's court. And I kind of understood what they were talking about. You know, they gave us a briefing, and this is, by they, I mean Scott and White Hospital. And they came to us, the commissioner's court, wanted us to vote to allow them to levy a tax on people that they see. And that tax made them eligible to get federal money back.
Yes, that's right.
And to me, that sounded so weird. Like, and immediately it made me think they're doing this because we didn't expand Medicare.
100%. That's exactly why. That's exactly why.
It's their workaround.
It is a workaround. It is, and it is permissible. There are so many sorts of rules at the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, CMS as we commonly call it, to be able to be eligible for that pot of, and no joke, I mean, they sweetened the pot when Biden was elected so that I think for like every $1 that went up to, for every $1 that a state would put up, I think the federal government would send down $5.
Oh, wow.
Who would think about that in terms of investment? If you had an absolute sure investment, it was backed by the federal government, that all you had to do is invest $1, but you would get back $5. Who would be stupid enough to not take that?
Greg Abbott.
Yeah.
And Rick Perry before him.
So again, other states are getting those $5. We're paying for it in our federal income tax. We're paying for it.
and
instead of
property
giving the
taxes.
beneficiary. Yeah, and then our property taxes. And again, if you're lucky enough to have insurance, because I know we would negotiate with insurance companies, and hospitals have this pool, and you can ask Scott and White about this. They have a pool of what's called uncompensated care. And those are the folks who come into the hospitals who don't have insurance, or they have an insurance plan that has a very high deductible and they can't pay the deductible.
I can tell you for at least the county healthcare plan that we have a good healthcare and dental plan for the employee. If you wanted to put your family on and your
Yeah.
spouse, it's unaffordable. It's
Yeah.
unaffordable. And it just doesn't make any sense to me that, how can you expect someone making, um, $45,000 a year to pay, over $1,000 a month in health care, for their
Right.
family.
Right.
They can't.
And this whole notion that, you know, you have to work to get insurance. Well, guess what? People work. Um, Everybody works there, but there are some people who work in jobs where the employer can't afford insurance for the employees. You think about a local restaurant, a local coffee shop, their margins aren't large enough for them to supply private insurance to their employees. You think about people who are self-employed out there, and think about somebody who's just started their own business and they are just scrambling to try to get, customers. For them to be able to buy their own insurance plan for themselves is typically bottom of the list in their priority, and not priorities because they don't want it. They do want it, but it's not feasible for them to have private insurance. So this whole notion that it's like people aren't working and they expect healthcare. No, people are working, but it's only large employers typically that can provide health coverage to their employees.
Yeah.
And you're leaving out a lot of, that's why we have, the largest uninsured rate and the largest uninsured number of people in Texas.
Well, that's definitely one of our fights, that we will keep fighting. But what, why did ground game get into the decriminalization of marijuana?
Well, I will tell you, that's a fun story. So after 2020, when, in Texas specifically, it was supposed to be this blue wave that took over, and it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I started looking at, reports on what happened in the 2020 election. And no, the election was not stolen. It wasn't. It was a free and fair election, and Biden won handily. Just want to dismiss that. Over 60 court cases determined that Biden won. And they just keep counting, they keep racking up. One of the reports I saw had a slide in it that showed ballot initiatives that outperformed Democrats and Republicans, everywhere. And you had like $15 minimum wage in Florida. Nebraska reformed payday lending, the most predatory form of lending, and they capped interest rates on that. Nebraska went overwhelmingly for Trump, but they voted for a very progressive issue to cap interest rates.
Right.
You had Medicaid expansion in Missouri, again, not exactly a progressive state. And then you had anywhere marijuana was on the ballot, it won overwhelmingly. And so I saw this and I was like, well, can we do that here in Texas? Like, let's do a statewide ballot initiative. And we can't. The Texas Constitution precludes citizens from leading a ballot initiative. The only folks who can do a ballot initiative or statewide ballot initiative is at the state ledge. So members of the House, members of the Senate.
Right.
But you can do this locally. Cities provide the opportunity to basically legislate locally. It's direct democracy. Citizens can collect signatures of registered voters for an issue, and they can legislate locally, called the power of the initiative, in a home rule city like Killeen and like Harker Heights. And I saw marijuana was probably number one issue that had the broadest bipartisan support.
Absolutely.
And seeing that, and look at Harker Heights. Harker Heights voted for marijuana decrim 64%. The voters who turn out to vote in Harker Heights probably not reflective of 64% Democrats, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that was a bipartisan issue that got Republicans and Democrats out to vote, and together they vote. I mean, I don't know that there's another issue that has such appeal as marijuana, either decrim or legalization, or you name it. We can't do legalization. I want to be really clear. That still has to come from the state ledge. But what we're doing in these ballot initiatives is saying, hey, we as a city don't want to prioritize arresting or issuing tickets to folks who have low levels amounts, misdemeanor amounts of marijuana on them. There are a lot of other things that our police departments should be concerned with. This isn't one of them. And so we collect the signatures. If we collect enough signatures, we turn it into the city secretary or the city clerk, depending on the city. They verify our signatures, and then it goes on to the next ballot.
Yeah.
It's the most democratic thing you can have, because people get to vote directly on the legislation.
And you know that, and we'll circle back around to this, but during this last commissioners court meeting that we had, we brought up the lawsuit, and one of the things one of the commissioners directed towards me was, you did this. He made it like I was responsible for it. Like, no, the voters voted for this. The voters signed the petition, and the voters approved it. So yeah, just trying to put it all on one individual. I guess that's saying a lot for things that I could accomplish if that's the case. But yeah, no, they just kept on like, it's all my fault. But hey, if I'm going to support what the people want, and this is what they wanted. We spent 2 years, almost 2 years, organizing and collecting signatures and going to city council meetings and working the polls. And this is what the people voted for.
And talking to people, we knocked doors, we made phone calls, we've texted people, we are engaging directly with the voter and saying, hey, you have the power. It's in your hands. You don't have to vote for this, but if you like this issue, vote for it. And I know we hear routinely from a very vocal minority in Harker Heights that it violates state law.
I like when you do that.
Violate state law. Well, I heard it on repeat so many times. I think sometimes I dream that voice screaming at me, it violates state law. It does not violate state law. And first of all, that is such a fallacious argument that side brings up, because if it violates state law, then I want to see them get up in arms about the Texas Compassionate Use Program in Texas, because that most definitely violates federal law.
Right.
And you don't hear any of them lobbying the state ledge or lobbying police departments to arrest people who are on the Texas Compassionate Use Program. And I'm certainly not advocating that at all. In fact, obviously, I would like to see a real legalization program across our entire state. But if they really had a problem with the violation of law and the rule of law, which we know is, I'm not going to cuss because I don't know who's going to hear it, but we know it's BS.
Mm-hmm.
It is not rule of law that they care about. They care about power. Plain and simple. They care about power, and they care about inflicting their will on everyone. So let's be really clear. If this really was a rule of law thing, then they would be out in the streets. They would be petitioning city councils to say, you need to make sure that your police department is arresting folks for Texas compassionate use, because that violates federal law. And not one of them has ever had that position. So give me a break on the it violates state law, but it really doesn't. If it violated state law, Ken Paxton would have come after the first city that decriminalized it, or come after the first DA that deprioritized, and he hasn't.
No, he hasn't. And, especially here locally, obviously, Bell County has sued the city of Killeen over passage and implementation of Proposition A. I brought it up during the commissioner's court meeting that we recently had, that even the chief of police said it did not violate state law, that they were operating within all the laws of the city, the ordinances of the city, the laws of the state, and the federal law. And he seems that we are, KPD, they're working smarter. It's making them work smarter, and that's exactly the intent of this. To allocate resources where they need to be allocated. To reduce violent crime, not
Mhm.
these low level crimes that are clogging up our court system, clogging up our jails, and yeah, I have no, I don't know what the standing is for the county that, and obviously it's, I don't think the county attorney is going to file today. Uh, Routinely, he misses his stated objectives. So I don't know exactly when he's going to file, but I would expect that the city of Killeen is going to challenge that filing, and
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see what happens in the court. So, what else is Ground Game doing? We had a very successful November election. The
Yep.
Everything passed in every city, correct, for
Yep.
decriminalization. Uh,
That is
what
correct.
what are y'all working on now?
So I want to remind folks that there is an election in Harker Heights on this again. This time we want folks to vote no on Prop 1 because 2 weeks after the election, even though Prop A passed with 64% of the vote, 4 city council members in Harker Heights, not Linda Nash did not vote to repeal the ordinance or repeal Prop A, but 4 city council members voted to repeal Prop A. So 2 weeks after the election, they ignored the will of the voters, of 5,200 voters, and they repealed it. So we collected signatures, turned them in again. It's a referendum now. We basically want to repeal city council's repeal of Prop A. And so the way the ballot language is worded, this time we have to vote no on Prop 1.
No on Prop 1. How quickly did we get those signatures to do this?
11 days, we collected 600 signatures.
So I think that it speaks volume in itself. Uh,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
So
Oh,
yeah, we're going to support candidates in Harker Heights that listen to the voters,
that's right.
both up and down the ballot, respect the will of the voters, and hopefully anyone that is running for office that's on the ballot that did not respect the will of the voters
Yeah,
will
like Michael Blomquist.
will will be answering to the voters this May.
Yeah. So personally, I would encourage listeners not to vote for Michael Blomquist for mayor as one of the city council. In fact, he may have seconded the motion to repeal Prop. The motion, somebody makes a motion, somebody has to second it. I think Michael is the one who
Yeah,
didn't make the, and then obviously voted to repeal it. So there are candidates that are pro-democracy, pro-will of the voter candidates. Linda Nash obviously is one of them. We need to get her reelected. Stacy Wilson, that name may sound familiar. She ran for county commissioner in precinct 2 last November.
right.
She's running for city council. And then we have a fabulous mayoral candidate in Dr. David Jones, a retired reverend, who would make an excellent mayor of Harker Heights. So all 3 of those candidates respect the will of the voters and will not do anything that would disrupt the will of the voters after the voters have spoken.
Yeah, I know that all of those candidates. I know them all. Those would be my picks if I lived in Harker Heights, but unfortunately I don't. But I am going to help support and get out the vote for all of those candidates in Harker Heights.
Yeah.
So what are y'all doing in El Paso? Because I heard a lot of stuff on the radio about El Paso and all these initiatives that are from support of y'all's organization.
So in El Paso, we are doing it's a charter amendment, amending the city's charter. It's like the constitution of the city. And it's all on having the city take climate action. And it covers several things. One of the most important provisions is the sale of municipal water for fracking, it would ban that. So no sales of municipal water to fossil fuel industries outside of city limits.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't currently sell for fracking, but they have had a history of selling municipal water. And El Paso has been in a years-long drought. We need to prioritize people in the city rather than letting that water go outside of the city for such a wasteful purpose. It would also prioritize having the city look at using eminent domain as a way of purchasing back El Paso Electric, which was privatized a few years ago and is now owned by JP Morgan Chase. And several people, when I went out to El Paso personally to collect signatures, that was probably one of the biggest positives that the folks who were signing the petition were in favor of. Like, oh my gosh, I cannot stand that there's no accountability within the city if I have a problem with my utility bill, because it's privately owned. Right. So there's nobody in the city who you can talk to that has any sway, power, reporting to, nothing over El Paso Electric because it's owned by a private company. And the sunniest city in El Paso only gets 5% of its energy from solar power. So it would have the city start, prioritizing using solar power on its own facilities, new construction, renovations. But it's a wonderful climate charter. We call it the climate charter. It's a really wonderful thing. And it's the first of its kind in Texas.
Yeah, no, I'm very familiar with El Paso. I built some Dollar Generals out there. I pretty much lived in El Paso for almost a year. I really enjoyed the city. It's a big city. A lot of people, are surprised how big El Paso is. Those sound like great things. El Paso is not on the Texas grid as well, so I don't know if people knows that or not.
It was the only city in Texas, right? Major city in Texas that did not have that was not part of the grid failure because they were off the grid.
Correct.
So they didn't experience in 2021 when we had snowpocalypse. They didn't experience the failure of the grid system like everybody else in Texas.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. But I think in 2011 they had a power issue because of weather, and they actually weatherized, and that's why they didn't experience that. But I really enjoyed my time there. I definitely am watching this climate initiative that is happening there in El Paso, and what you are doing over there. But what is Ground Game's, I guess, 2024 forecast?
Right. Well, we're still finalizing what cities we want to work in. And we've already got a couple of coalitions building in some smaller parts of Texas, Lubbock and College Station. Both towns have reached out to us, or I should say folks within the towns have reached out to us. They want to do marijuana decrim. Again, okay. Hugely popular issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so likely, that's probably what we'll lead with, unless there are parts of the state where something similar to the climate charter could work. And so building up the coalitions, we're waiting, like I said, we haven't fully finalized our 2024 plans, and I don't want to give anybody, I don't want to give any of the opposition.
Yeah.
Who might be listening, heads up on where we're heading.
So how would a lawsuit from Bell County, how will that affect decrim? I'm sure it's going to take a while to work through the court systems, then maybe even appeal from one side or the other. So what do you think, you have a law degree. How do you think this is going to play out?
Well, I mean, again, I don't think that Prop A violates state law. We've written those ordinances primarily in 4 parts. No citations, no arrest for misdemeanor possession. Again, cities have been doing this across our state without any repercussions, at least from Ken Paxton, right?
Right.
Now, a court may view it differently, but at least not from Ken. And I think if Ken could come after them, he would. He'd make an example of one of the cities, right?
No, absolutely.
We also say, that the city won't spend any money on concentration testing for THC. And I want to let people know why this is important. There's only one way to identify whether something is legal hemp or illegal marijuana, and that is doing a concentration test. And the labs that do that have to get licensed by the state. So those tests that police officers have in their cars, and they do a presumptive THC test, that just tells you if THC is in it. It does not tell you if it's legal or illegal. And the concentration amounts matter, because in 2019, the Texas Ledge passed the Texas Farm Bill, which legalized low potency marijuana, aka hemp.
So, real quick, let me
yeah.
say something. I attended a crime solution. Colleen started a crime solution committee. My predecessor, John Driver, was on that committee. Obviously, I replaced him. Mm-hmm. One of the questions that was brought up for the chief of police to answer was, how much fentanyl laced marijuana are they encountering? And he said they don't test for that. So there was no way for them to answer that. So I found it funny that some of the people that always speak against Prop A were trying to link those two together, that, we have, I guess, like, they're trying to see if we have a lot of fentanyl laced marijuana running around in the city of Killeen.
Right. Well, again, they would be fantastic if they truly are concerned about that. Then they should be lobbying Brad Buckley. And for the folks who live, for the folks who live in the donut hole, contact Brad Buckley. For the folks who live in the donut, contact Hugh Shine and say, we need to legalize cannabis in the state so that our residents are not getting fentanyl laced marijuana. Whether you criminalize it or decriminalize it, that's not going to stop fentanyl. The only way to stop fentanyl from getting into the supply chain is to legalize it and have control of it and regulate it. And just like every state around us has mm-hmm. done: Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, New Mexico.
Right.
And, you want to, I've said this before, I'll say it again. If you really are determined to kill drug trafficking, legalize marijuana. Start with the drug dealer's biggest product. It makes them the most money. It's still the number one import into Texas over any other drug. You want to kill their trade. If you want to cut them off at the knees, legalize marijuana. You want to cut the cartel off. Cut off the supply of marijuana into Texas.
Yeah, no,
and let it be legal and regulate it, and let our farmers grow something that's, can help them, and let our small business owners be the beneficiaries of, having like what they have in New Mexico and Colorado, dispensaries, and Oklahoma. Oklahoma has medical marijuana. It's not really dispensary, but they make it really easy to get a medical marijuana permit. My mind's blank, but
and Oklahoma is not a liberal state.
It's not.
But okay. Well, let's kind of wrap things up. I guess I just really want to end on, what is the political future for Julie Oliver? Like, sure, you're young like I am, so I don't see you staying off the ballot for long.
Well, heard it first here. I'm moving to Bell County so I can run for county attorney.
All right.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm going to give Nichols a run for money.
That would be
marijuana
nice. That would be nice. We need a new district attorney and a new county attorney.
Yeah, we sure do. I do think that whoever runs, whichever candidates run for those on the district side, I do hope that they will run on a platform of not prosecuting those cases. They're a waste of county resources, quite honestly.
No, I tell people and sometimes it's like, singing to the choir, but we're expanding candidates, getting candidates. A lot of these incumbents have run and opposed multiple times, multiple terms. They
Right.
have no money in their campaign funds, and I we seen it this last election. I don't think they know how to campaign. They don't know how to do the grassroots knocking on the doors. They could put up signs, but signs are not. You got to get out there and knock on doors, especially if you're going to be competitive. So hopefully we'll catch them sleeping
Yeah.
at the
Right.
wheel. But speaking to county commissioners in Fort Bend County and the county judge in Hayes County, you don't know when that lightning is going to strike. So to have candidates on the ballot, uh, because whenever you file to be placed on the ballot, it's a year out.
That's
And
right.
so, yeah, we don't know what's going to happen within that year. We don't know if we're going to have a Barack Obama, go out and get all the base excited to go out and turn out to vote. So yeah,
That's right.
that's something that I'm looking to do is having candidates up and down the ballot to give the voters a choice, and that's
Yeah.
how I see my role on the commissioner's court to be that opposition, that voice, the progressive voice on the commissioner's court to let people know that there's other ways that we could do things in the
That's
county,
right. That's
uh,
right.
to other resources that we could fund.
Yep. That is so true. So I don't know. I have no idea um, what or if I'll run. I deeply love what I do right now. I do like affecting change, especially, when our state leadership isn't doing the right thing. Being able to change things locally, it has real impact on people's lives. And that's really powerful, to be able to change somebody's life and not, you know, set them on a path of, you know, having a conviction on their record for such a small in 2023 that marijuana is still illegal. Do you know that Kentucky just passed, literally passed, it's going to the governor for signature. It will be a medical marijuana program in Kentucky, of all places.
Hmm.
They literally did it either yesterday or today. So it's going to the governor for signature, who will sign it because he's a Democrat. But yeah, it's
Yeah, why are we last to the prom? So
I don't know, 38th state to have a medical marijuana program. 38th.
oh
So I don't know, but we're last in a lot of things, Louie, and it's not good.
yeah, well, you know, luckily we have people like yourself. We have organizations like Ground Game that are going out and teaching the community how to organize and get initiatives on the ballot because uh, I think the last time it was done in Killeen is whenever they recalled the entire city council in 2013 that we had
Yeah.
some type of petition drive like that. So it doesn't happen a lot. And the fact that this organization is out there supporting local communities to get these initiatives, I want to say thank you to Ground Game
Well,
Texas.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for stepping up too, because I know it's not easy to be the lone voice in a sea of red on that county commissioners in the county commissioners court. I know that's not easy, but I can tell you one thing, and your voters are better off for having you there.
Yes, I
They
will. I will continue to be that voice as long as I'm there, as long as the people will have me.
That's awesome, Louie.
So, is there any parting words you want to say, Julie? I want to just say thank you for doing this show. We talked about a lot of things, a lot of important things that people care about, that progressive Democrats care about. Even some Republicans, probably moderate Republicans, we could throw in there too.
Yeah, honestly, y'all, it is such a privilege to be able to vote. It is. And while we can still vote, please go vote. We have the opportunity to vote twice a year in Texas, at least 2 times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Every May and every November, there's an election, even in odd years. So it's May 2023, May 6, 2023, Harker Heights and Killeen both have city council elections. Pay attention to who's running, because I guarantee you there are people running for city council in Killeen and city council in Harker Heights that are against Prop 8. They're against marijuana decrim. And if you vote or you don't vote and allow the people who do vote to vote those folks in, that means Prop 8 gets repealed in your town. So pay attention to who's on your ballot and ask questions. And honestly, obviously, Louie, people can reach out to you or me and they can get, our personal opinions on who to vote for.
Right.
So y'all can find me. I'm on Facebook. I'm Julie Oliver. You can always find Ground Game Texas. And reach out. We'll give you our personal recommendations. But if you want to keep marijuana decrim in your city, representation matters, because the city council members have the power to repeal it. And so May 6th, please vote. If you're not registered to vote, April 6th is the last day to get registered to vote for the May 6th election.
Well, thank you so much for that, Julie. Thank you so much for the show, being on the show. If you wanna get some more information on Ground Game, it's Ground Game Texas. Texas is spelled out .org.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, thank you, and we will talk to you later.
Thanks, Louie.